This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, good evening, everybody. We'll call the meeting to order. The agenda is in front of you. Do you have any additions or corrections?
Yes, from the one I sent out, I highlighted it. Hope everybody's highlight showed up from my scan and print. We just added Zeba here to talk in a bit. That would be the only amendment.
I'll approve the agenda as amended.
For a second?
I'll second.
Motion's made in the second to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's passed. Regular minutes from September 15th.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes from September 15th.
Motion's made. Is there a second? Motion's made in second. All in favor, say aye. Approving the minutes.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Before we go on, does anybody know what's going on over the bridge over there? Oh. I thought it looked like somebody was filming something.
I was getting photos.
You charge a fee for that?
We could.
What is it?
I think it's only doing senior photo.
At least check to make sure they're from Zambrota.
I am not taking a fee for that.
What?
I'm not taking a fee for that.
Oh.
They will never, they
Do
will
not put
never,
that in. I think that's
They'll never
recorded.
come.
Do not put that in there.
they'll never come pay.
All right, shut up. Move on. Moving on, financial reports. Dylan.
Yeah, so as you can see, it's quite extensive this month. As I brought up last month, we'll start seeing more and more of the festival line items come out, which there are quite literally a ton. I have a whole stack of signatures that I need. Don't let me forget to find you before the end of this.
Okay.
But other than that, Kim mentioned how it's pretty standard, pretty normal outside of just the amount of things coming out of EDA.
How does that balance out the festival?
So the festival has its own budget on the budget sheet, if you remember from last month. And so it'll come out of that expense and into that expense. And the EDA is just the holder of that fund.
But did it come out like
Or
even? We had still have a surplus of money? Did
There's
it go
still
in the
a
hole?
surplus.
Okay.
I think in the budget's about 18,000.
It's budgeted for 18.
Yep.
Fireworks are 6, so there's a third of it. This year we had just over 20,000 in, I'll call it sponsorships and donations, which aren't all monetary. So there's some things that need to be worked out there. You know, like Nilsson's donated 1,500 bottles of water, which we're grateful for. But we didn't know what to do with it all.
Sure.
Some of the businesses that donated from 2019 that we didn't use, they donated again. So we had double donations from them for one festival.
Okay. Good. Any questions for Dylan? Concerns? If not, I'll make a motion to approve the accounts payable. Is there a second? Motion's been made in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Old business, moving on, Zeba request for assistance.
This is the last month one. You guys aren't up yet. I just wanted to make mention that I attended the Zeba meeting this past week and relayed to them that we approved last month the request for assistance for, it was 300 for their band. And then Kim's gone into California right now. So when she's back, we'll be submitting the check to you guys for that refund from the block party. So that would just be a recap, finish out that old business line item.
Good. Anything else on that? Moving on to new business, Eric Woolman.
Yes.
Good Woolman, you're up.
Sure.
I've been working with city staff about my property that I own. Thank you. across 445th Street from the Cool Store. And I just wanted to make sure there weren't any misconceptions with my willingness to cooperate with the city. I was born and raised in Zumbrota, and it'll always be my hometown. There have been plans for an industrial park, very good in talking about it and putting it on maps for 30 or 40 years, and so far nothing's really developed. Just for background, in 2018, I was approached by a real estate development firm that wanted to build a Kemp's ice cream plant, and I had a purchase agreement with them at, well, it was 27,000 an acre for the 25 acres, and then another 15 acres at 35,000. Long story short, that Dean's Food went bankrupt that year, and DFA bought Dean's Foods and had more plants than they knew what to do with. So that was the end of that story. But since then, I'm going to tell you the timeline a little bit, what's been going on. In May of 2020, Mike Olson contacted me about water main looping project. And I got the impression that it had to do with the cheese plant improvements, but I've been told maybe that wasn't it, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, the city wanted an easement to put a water main across my land, so I was willing to do that. And Bill Angerman from WHKS laid out some plans about where the water main was going to go. And then we had a meeting in August with myself, Brad Nord, Larry Tomford to pick which plan was most agreeable. Up until then, there had been never any mention of charges or assessments. Then in October of 2020, Brian approached me about the sale. The city apparently had a suitor to build a manufacturing plant. Brian said that the city wanted to buy approximately 50 acres from me to build an industrial park. Based on my dealings with DFA, I decided that $28,000 an acre was a fair price. But before we could finish any negotiations, the manufacturing plant went somewhere else and the deal was off. After that, the idea of the benefited water service area came up, and then I was to be assessed $190,000 for this benefit, only if and when the land would be developed. That was supposed to be a big advantage. So it was kind of a big swing from a seven-figure sale to me owing $190,000. In July of this year, the proposed fee was dropped to a lesser amount. And in conclusion, I have serious doubts about the viability of the industrial park now that the gateway tenant is slated to be a scrapyard. I just don't think that's going to set the tone. I'd prefer to see the land developed as a distribution center or warehousing and sell it to one or two buyers instead of small parcels to numerous buyers over many years. And the water main as planned probably won't be in the right place for this plan, and it might actually be in the way. So I'm proposing giving the city an easement to put the water main down my eastern property line. It could then go through the Nord land exactly as planned and not be in the way of any alternate development on my land. And I've got a map here that shows kind of the city's plan and then where I think would be a viable option. Not do it. Just be on the property line there.
I can share with Rich.
Maybe there's no.
Oh, there's two.
No, thank you.
Then it would veer over through Norris land. And it would still, if some development happened on my land, it would still be accessible for that or an industrial park as well. Anybody any questions?
Well, I have a question on the map. Is the blue dash line the current proposed?
Yes,
And then your black dash line is
yes,
your proposed?
yes.
So it's still come across the back, split down the two?
The yellow highlighted is the land that I own.
Okay, great, thank you.
And the blue line would be the way the city proposed it.
Right, versus coming this way, comes
That's
that way.
52 over here.
Mhm.
To my knowledge, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, the proposed street is due to setbacks and right-of-ways owned by the state. I don't know if the black dash line would be too close to the intersection of where they're proposing a future bridge. So we don't have necessarily the entirety of the jurisdiction of this area.
Because they are proposing a bridge from 445th Street.
An overpass, but I don't know that
When?
I don't know that a water pipe under the ground is going to be
Sure.
a big deal. That way.
I think water pipes generally go down the middle of the street, don't they?
They would typically go down, yes.
Covered bridge, you can go through the ground instead of the road.
Well, whatever route we choose, typically you'd want it down the middle of the road or where a road would be, but like Eric is saying, we don't have any suitors yet, so we don't know where the road would be, especially if he wants to focus on larger distribution type centers, we can theorize, that a road would go kind of where it looks like down the center, but maybe not. If Eric comes up with something bigger, it might be offset there. So
It's just an option.
Yep, and I do want to explain the benefit of water district a little bit. So the benefit of water district has been done in a number of areas. I think the one we modeled this after was from Byron, I believe. And what it would be, we've got some costs to run it through here, and having the water in there is gonna increase the value of the land probably, and be very attractive for a developer. So typically, when, like I had told Eric, if we're going to have increase, we could go right down the right of way on Highway 52 for a certain cost. And going the routing that we had was going to be more cost. And so we were looking to recoup that extra cost of our taxpayer dollars, the extra cost that it would cost to run it through Eric's land and Nord's land. But that would be paid only when, like you said, only when it's developed per acre by whoever develops it. Wouldn't necessarily be, it's whoever develops it. So it's kind of an assessment, but it's way down the road, or well, hopefully not. Hopefully it won't be way down the road, but that's how that works. So Eric is looking at it as he owes that money, and we're looking at it a little differently. 6 of one, half dozen of the other. It's money, that somebody would owe. But anyway, that was those discussions there. So yeah, no, absolutely, we can consider the route there and the easement in that area, as opposed to going down the right of way. And and you're right, it would be roughly in the right spot for future development of Nord's land.
I think it was a
And then
little shorter than
accessible.
going down the middle too, as far as so many feet it was going to cost. And it would still be amenable to future development. It just wouldn't be set in stone exactly where that development had to be.
And it would be accessible to you, yeah. Anybody that develops would have to tap into it and bring it out, or bring it across, of course. But
Until it loops
And-
back, right? So we haven't yet committed to not having the
water tower.
that's water tower, but this will help with that.
So yeah, so what we've got is a big long dead end out there, and cold store needs water to cool. If they went down in the summer, that's a lot of ice cream or whatever they're storing out there, that's going to go bad. So we need some redundancy out there in case one of the water mains should have a break. We need a second route to run water out there. So that's what this is. Plus it's pretty not good water when you've got that long of a dead end, when you get down to the end of it. Brunings out there has terrible water because we can't move it enough. It's on a dead end, we flush it.
But
This would help alleviate that as well. Yeah, so those are kind of the reasoning. And the other reason would be that we, once it's going and we see how everything functions, we could get rid of the old water tower.
Or painted.
And then
Or
if.
painted.
Like if this is what we're voting on, the tower stays. No. Put that in the minute.
And the other thing is, out there, you may need a water tower out there on the highland anyway, so. So yeah, and Eric's right, we've been working for a long time on this, and it started with, we're looking at doing the looping, and Mike thought, well, I wonder if some of the owners out there would be interested in having it go through. And that grew into, where would it go, and all these plans, layouts, theoretical layouts. And then the manufacturing business came along. It was like the first month I was here. And then so I'm scrambling, trying to land a business that would bring in 35 to 50 jobs. And we were focusing here Then that didn't work, and then, yeah, so.
So is this your property here?
You can't see
The
that.
top side is,
Line going through it.
yep, this is Nord. Not this chunk. This chunk is
This is
somebody else.
Brad's, and this has just been sold by Tomford to the guy who wants to put up scrapyard.
Oh, really?
He's been
And
here.
that's right from Highway 52. You can see, matter of fact, he's got scrapped already.
Oh, really?
Okay,
Okay.
I haven't seen that one yet. I
So
quit
this-
going that way because the bridge is closed.
This water main,
How did you get that way, Lindsay?
Highway?
Right.
What? What? I don't know what you're talking about.
if this water main was to be put in the way you're proposing it here, say this was sold and developed, this obviously is probably not going to be one chunk. This would be probably broken up, I would think. Maybe, possibly, to say. But it's almost, you'd almost have to run the water line up partway here to get it into this access, or would you have to continue up here? This one is what I'm wondering about is, it seems like it's going to be kind of landlocked for as far as water, if we come up this way. Whereas if we go down this way, you can branch off either side.
But what if the lots are long and skinny, you know, this way?
But you've got the road here.
The proposed road, that's not a road. That's just a
What
proposed.
this would do is,
This is just a blank field right now.
And then all kinds of maps, but there's little 2 and 3 and 4, 5 acre lots off of that. And that makes really good sense if it's going to be an industrial park sold to 20 different people.
But what he would like
So far, that
to,
hasn't seemed to come to fruition in any way. And for a while, the city wanted to buy it, that was certainly doable.
and really, an industrial park is it's hard to attract a developer to do an industrial park. Most often it would be a city buying some part of the land, putting a road in, getting those lots ready to go. Then when we get the call, yep, we've got this spot, and because developers want to move it now, you know, and if you do an industrial park, they don't tend to move like that. And so it's hard to get a developer in to do something like that. But you got to get it started somehow.
It's been with Jacobs. Okay, so any questions for Eric? Or anything, what are your wishes from this organization, or just you just?
I just wanted to, because I read your minutes and there was a couple of things that I thought were misconceptions. I just wanted to make sure everyone was on the same page here. And I was certainly amenable with the water main. I'm just not I don't know if it's in the right place, and I don't want to encumber the land
Right.
because of it. Because, you know, you can't build over the top of it. You can't, there's a lot of things you can't do when it's there. I can still farm, that's fine. Farming's good.
Yeah, it would be pretty not disruptive going through there when we do it, you know, it would be not disruptive to farming. We'll get in there and get out.
A few fire hydrants there, but you can
Possibly,
we
yeah.
can work around them. But I'm just worried that if some other development besides for the one you proposed were to come along, then suddenly, so what's the water main doing right there in the middle? You know, and I could be wrong, but I'm still willing to go along with the city. I just don't want it right down the middle.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'll bring that back to Mike and Bill and a little committee, and we'll talk about that. And yeah,
I
appreciate
just
it.
want to make sure everybody's kind of on the same page.
Thank you.
All right. I get it. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for your time.
Absolutely.
Good talking. Dylan?
No one's
Thank
always
you.
talking. See, thanks.
Thank you, everybody.
Coming. Okay, Zebra request for.
can I ask one more question on this? Because it didn't really require him, but if you do put the proposed water line on the edge of his property, do you have to get an agreeable easement from the other property owners as well? Or are you going to put it far enough on his property that you avoid agreements with the other?
You don't have,
The best route.
you don't have to get a permission to put an easement down, do you? The city?
Get a,
Well,
well, yeah, he's got to sell an easement to us, and he was willing to do it for $1 last I heard from him.
what you're
But
thinking
we
of,
keep it on his land.
for this type of scenario, you'd have to get permission for this easement because it comes up non-road right-of-way area, which is already going to be an easement area where cities can access. But, you know, let's say the city wants to come through your backyard, side yard, things like that. If there's not an established right-of-way, you have to get permission to do so. Otherwise, you go through other procedures.
That's why we would go down the right of way,
Yeah.
the state right of way, because that's already there. It's a right of way.
See,
That's what it was, not 50 feet.
Yep.
Come back to this side.
How many acres is this that he owns?
Oh, well, 50 is what we were looking at. That's about 50 right there. He owns all the way up the hill, but he put solar arrays up there.
and
He owns all the way to 62.
He owns
doesn't
all the way to 60. You're right,
62.
yeah. He's got two solar arrays.
Does he own this one?
Yep, he owns the one in the west. He owns,
But to your point earlier, Rich, the Jacobson Business Park is messy because there was no, there are limited plans of this nature. You know, what the city is trying to do is adopt a future land use roadmap and et cetera, because what there should be is a service road there. It's going to present the most viable option for any type of business, industrial, commercial, or any of the like to want to come to any of those parcels when they're divided up already for them, because you get rid of the biggest expense of bringing out infrastructure. It's just, I'll leave it at that. I'll say more.
Okay, so then I guess I'm probably gonna ask a dumb question, but, you know, so say the city does, or the EDA does have the funds to purchase this land and divide it up. We are obviously going to sell that in hopes of recouping. Do we look to just break even then? And just get our money back out of it?
Depends on the business that
yeah,
is
I
coming
mean,
in.
if you're bringing in 50 jobs, then, you know, maybe you don't break even, you know, maybe it's a little cheaper. You give it a little cheaper just to get those jobs in the town and people spending money and tax base.
I mean,
But you have a basis for so much per square foot, don't you?
For what we mean.
For land?
For, you know,
it depends on the type of it too. I mean, it all depends, you know, like he said, if it brings in 50 jobs, we can give them tax increment financing and then give them their taxes back year after year after year. But otherwise, you can do other ways to alleviate any types of costs for just for the tax base increase itself. It all depends on the proposal. I mean, we sit here and give a million different templates, but none of them might be right.
And there's other land in the area that might be amenable, yeah, that's right, to some development. We'll see.
$27,000 an acre seemed like a lot of money.
Not anymore.
That's cheaper than what it is right now. Tim Mack's trying to sell for 39 an acre.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I was scrambling because we kind of wanted to bring that manufacturing business into town. So I came up with a number and yeah, didn't go anywhere, which was good because the manufacturing business got a better deal somewhere else.
And then to his point earlier, you know, slow development of, let's say, an industrial park in a small community is not because of a small community, it's because of a lack of land. We don't own his land, we can't control his land. How is something supposed to develop on our watch without it being on our watch?
Yeah, and speaking of not being able to control land that's on our outskirts, there's a MnDOT traffic study out there that shows it's called a backage road going right down through there, up to 60. And so that would kind of close the loop there. But they put a solar array right in the middle of where that MnDOT plan shows a road. And the county had no interest in listening to us make the argument that, hey, this is a future MnDOT road here. Nope. It's his land, he can put it wherever he wants. So that solar array is right where the road was going to be in the future.
You know, if you do a road this close to the intersection there of, what was that, 62? What is the
50.
cross street, the east and west by the Covered Bridge restaurant? 45th or 45th?
That's what.
So you think about future planning, you're gonna have to redo that road and move it. It's too close to the intersection, especially with the overpass. That's what's being omitted here.
The road, which road? The black line's not a road. It's
If his
just,
road came in though,
no, that's just a water pipe. That's not a road. He's not proposing that a road goes there.
well, he also said that city services go through roads.
He did, I know, but. No, and
They
you're
don't
right. in
propose a
that
road
case.
until they know what they're
Right.
going to develop it
Yeah,
as.
the road might be adjacent, but, which Mike won't like. Public Works wise, it's not a good idea, but Yeah, so Wetstein's gonna run into issues there down the road when they build an overpass.
So is the cart before the horse on this, deciding on where you're proposing a water line without actually developing the property? And
No, because
and plotting it out.
we gotta get the water out there, and we'll just go down the right of way, and then the developer can go get water when they do it. Because we can save, I don't know, it's not a huge savings to go down the right of way, but what it is, some,
So the city is pushing forward on the water line,
we have to.
no developer on the property.
Well, yeah,
Well, technically, isn't this one township?
yeah, it's in the township.
This isn't even city-owned property, the one with the highlight,
Oh, which one?
the highlighted one, right?
The highlighted, so
Doesn't-
half of that's been annexed in.
Okay.
That was the Kemp's plant. The farther one to the west was annexed in. And Wetstein is annexed in. But yeah, so you're right. We were gonna run that through there with no developer, just run it through somebody's land to make that land more marketable for an industrial park, because that's a big deal for Zimrota. We need that, in hopes that a developer would come in and say, geez, the water's there already. They can get it for whatever an acre, and then it gets to be a pretty good deal. But we wanted to recoup the extra cost of running it through that land with this benefited water district, which has done quite a bit. And it's an assessment, but it's not, it doesn't know $190,000 right now or ever if he sold the land, or if he can defer pieces. He would never owe that money. It would be the developer, which would still be a good deal for them because the water's already there. But
The water looping project benefits the city as well. I mean,
Absolutely.
that was pushing forward
Oh,
before
yeah.
any of, we were
Yes.
trying to figure out how to do that before
Yeah.
an industrial park.
In future, just having it there will benefit if there's an industrial park up farther, if there's one here, if there's whatever it ends up being out there. And it'll make sure we've got redundancy for one of our biggest taxpayers in town.
So the benefit to not running it through the right of way is to have those water mains closer to the future industrial park.
And the way it shows there, you still follow the blue line until it gets to the black line down the property line. So that would be, right through the middle of Nord's land. But who knows where that road's gonna end up if it doesn't end up lining up with whatever Lohman does, because Lohman's got Nord locked in. He owns that little railroad bed too with the trees. He bought that too and then locked Nord in. So Nord's kind of at the mercy of whatever Eric does moving forward. So we'll have to take a look at it. We're gonna run the looping out there somewhere. So maybe it goes down the right of way. We just spend less money and developers can go get the water the way any other developer would.
So I didn't, Brian, I thought he said, Wetstein just bought, then he wouldn't be.
Oh, he'd still be locked in because that tree line, Eric
tree line.
Eric owns that tree line.
Not the back.
That little strip where the railroad bed was. Can you, how
Anywho.
Eric's pretty shrewd dealer, or shrewd, business guy.
Okay, let's move on. You're up.
Just gonna handouts. We're both here representing Ziba and would like to request your assistance. And what we have a passion for is to see speakers, audio speakers, which would run music. And you'd be able to use a microphone for raffle winners, or if somebody was running a special, they should put it over the mic system downtown. I personally think of like a Hallmark movie and, you're downtown and it just puts a little extra joy and stuff in your stride. And it wouldn't have to necessarily be played, because we talked about that, about tenants up above. If they get mad, or, if it's played all day long, if they're trying to sleep during the day or whatever. So maybe certain times during the day is something we could look at, but that's like in the future. What we're looking for is ideas right now. We've met with, two people, and then this one just came to be that you have there, which are our better option. The first one was $22,000, and that would involve whipping up some sidewalks to get wiring there, which we kind of have squelched. This system is actually in place in Luck, Wisconsin. So if any of you want to take a little trip over there, They play their music from 11 to 2. And they're on the second page of this printout here. You can go on Facebook to their site and you can actually go to the first video and hear the speaker system and see them on their streetlights. It's pretty awesome. I unfortunately won't be able to get there until December because I'm going to be gone in the month of November, but Chris might, road trip there. But feel free because I think that's the only way we'll probably know, but I do want to make a point to get there to see it. But like I said, we're in the beginning stages. I wanted to let you know that we are thinking of that. We'd love to see it happening. When I first came into town in the early 80s, Lochner's had a couple speakers out, and I know Covered Bridges had a speaker out. Dave from Covered Bridges didn't like his speaker, but the Lochner's, it just added something downtown. And you'll see from the speaker system on that video that it really is awesome. But was it the Pledge of Allegiance or the Star Spangled Banner that they were playing? And it was like crispy clear. Just awesome. So as you can see there, the cost, talking on the phone, Chris did all this legwork. She spoke to the gentleman from Street Sound.
The city.
From what? Okay, from actual city. Well, actually, how did you get the pricing then?
Oh, I spoke to the
Street Sound. Yeah, it's from Street Sound. And that's how he came up with it because they came up with Google Maps and saw, our streets and priced it out. So this system would be about $12,000. So a little bit more feasible. I did write a grant request to the Broda Community Trust. We did get $1,500 from them to apply to this. We should have asked for more. But they are out of funds, but they did grant us that. I've written a letter to Zimbrota Lions, pretty much similar to what I requested from the Community Trust. I haven't heard back from them, but would really like to see this happen. So we're just, reaching out and to give it some thought for assistance. Anything you want to add, Chris? Any questions at all? It's broken down there, 5 dual speakers, and the system itself is the other printout.
When did Luck input this?
2017.
17?
And I think it was one of the first installations because they actually had a gentleman that came from Georgia and put the transmitter and everything in to make sure it all worked.
But there's a video.
They said they just put it in and plugged it in and it was good to go.
There's a video.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be, what's the,
Weather Minnesota proof?
Yes, they
Well,
have
and
weather.
I was like, and let's further.
He said they use it a lot more than they ever thought they would. They use it they have several parades through the year. It has a speaker system that you can like sing on if you want to. Make announcements.
Slow down.
Yeah, right?
Stop for pedestrians.
Yeah.
Oh, it was no bueno. My question for you actually, Brian, is this something that the camera system company that we're looking at would have a add-on option, that this is something that they may also?
Speaker systems. They're just cameras that I know of.
About kind of running off the same technology.
Logistically, who controls the radio or the music?
They have one central location, and ideally, we can log that individual or individuals that would run it could log in anywhere. So you could have a playlist, you could have Sirius XM, you could have Pandora, and yes, you'd have to agree on music, but throughout the year, it would be something pretty mellow, like instrumental, maybe soft music playing unless it's a holiday, and otherwise it'd be Christmas music, nothing loud and obnoxious, but just peaceful stuff to just enjoy your shopping, draw people here.
It does require a computer or iPad of some sort to run your streaming through.
so did Luck say how long they anticipate it? What's the shelf life of the product?
Like, don't make eye contact.
She has a
I think it's a 5-year warranty.
Okay.
And they've not had any issues, of course. It's
What
been
was
5 years. They're actually, I think, going to have them come out before the 5 years is up
Sure.
And just
why not?
kind of
Yeah, you got the warranty.
have them look it over before the 5 years is up. It requires power and they mount on existing lights.
And I have.
So
put a
our-
note in
yeah,
my
our big
policy to
question is,
check
do
on
we
that,
have
and
power
I haven't heard
that's-
back from him.
There are the lights and on all the time, or does it just live power when the lights come on?
It would be
Okay.
powered, yeah, the lights themselves.
So the outlet itself would be.
Live, 24/7. Okay.
Yep, yep. And, the first one wasn't going to be good for us because of the tip of the sidewalks.
Right.
Drainage system. We were
And like-
whoa, I don't think so.
22,000 without even doing all that.
Yes, yeah. But something like this, that's wireless. We can get power up there to where it needs to be.
Right.
I know it's in the face of the pole. I suppose it runs up, so. Well, there gotta be a way to do it. Buck did it.
Well, yeah, where's the actual plug-in?
Is it at the base?
Is it the base or
Oh,
the
it's
top?
all underneath. I don't know if there's,
I was gonna look at
I
that.
think
I
it's just-
can't
Yeah, it
remember.
was-
so we would have to tap
I thought
into
it
it.
was because I thought at one time we looked at Christmas lights.
Yeah.
So they have
Oh,
to
yeah,
plug
yeah,
in
we
somewhere.
I thought they were on top,
Okay.
but I don't know for sure.
The website for the equipment actually has an installation video on YouTube and it's so simple. The guy from Lux said, his words, any idiot can hang these on a light. I mean, it's that simple. So
You don't wanna
hang them and plug it in.
So I should cross off installation costs from my next question.
So this is something that, you talked about the different types of music and stuff, but this is something you'd have on daily for certain, all the time, or?
Potentially.
And have it run on a
Sunday
timer,
or whatever.
AC on Friday night?
right? Or maybe not on Sundays, since businesses aren't open on Sunday, but Monday through Saturday.
Oh, yeah. I don't know about that. Maybe businesses should be open.
So that's kind of, okay, so who's going to be the one that's in charge of this?
You better
Okay, so
open a business.
if you get it, is it Ziba that's going to do it, and then Ziba decides that it's going to be Chris, and then Chris picks out the music, and Chris decides when it's going to be on and when it's not going to be on, and
Wherever the central location is, when we come closer, that would be determined. Correct?
And those are all things that we haven't really delved into yet because we're just getting into it. We just found this last week,
Yeah.
this wireless system. My husband Googled it and
Yeah.
he questioned.
Is that you?
I personally wanted to see it happen for this year, but it's not gonna happen because
I did receive an email that said due to the chip shortage, their equipment is out into next year.
so.
It isn't going to happen.
Hoping for
yet, but- So it gives us
spring,
time to kind of get our legwork done.
Is the type of a thing that I just know what I've looked at here, but say you set this up and during the Covered Bridge Festival, the parade goes down Main Street, people can use it as a microphone and use it as a
You
broadcasting.
could announce the band, you could announce, yes, it'd be awesome.
So it can be that way too.
They're actually, the gentleman from Luck told me they're actually looking at setting up an outdoor movie thing and projecting a movie and using it for that. So
So are you hoping that the remaining funds will come from the EDA, or are you still going out to approach other fundraising avenues?
The last resort is to put an article in the paper, giving credit where credit's due, either, the Lions come forward, the community trust, EDA, the city, because I will be at the council meeting tomorrow night. Because that's how passionate I am about it. Really want people to know about it and to really consider helping fund the Chris assistance, 100%, whatever percent. What was your question, Leslie? I'm sorry.
Where, if you want the remaining money to come from EDA, or if you have other fundraising coming up.
Last resort is I would write an article in the newspaper, give credit where credit's due, and asking for the general public, if they would love to see this come to be, to do donations, whether it's anonymous or they want to just give the money toward it. We have to know that it can happen first, but according to what Brian said, it's the live outlet that it would go into on the street light.
I have a second question.
Can you add on units that would all come from the same,
We could add more.
like
I
you could
mean,
add one into the covered bridge at some point that would just
Hmm.
have music on the weekend in there or your
You can reach the
movies.
antenna, the transmitter. And they have boosters.
Mhm.
If you're too far away, then they'll boost it.
Yeah.
Right,
Because
so-
Luck actually has 3 to 4 blocks, so they have some boosters in their system.
Yeah.
But it kind of comes back to what Rich asked, who's in control? And as we kind of got into this, and the guy from Luck is like, well, it's the city that's, put this together, their EDA, and that's who's in charge of the music. So we don't really have all those answers yet, but just wanted to,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But you anticipate 12,000 is what your total cost is
Roughly
going to
12 is what's projected there, yes.
Yeah, and we don't know what shipping is gonna be.
Right,
So 95.
right. I think that equals like 11,750 or something, so that there's a little bit of room there for shipping, but yeah,
650.
12,000 plus.
The other thing I'd be interested in hearing about is ongoing costs for electrical, Wi-Fi, any type of maintenance. I was mentioning this on the phone, remember the AED presentation?
Yeah.
How the gentleman said, X amount of times it needs to be maintained, then.
I think the electrical is going to be city if it plugs into the lights.
But it's still something to consider.
And whatever streaming device, if we use a streaming device, that will be a cost, right?
That's where the
Or the
Wi-Fi
computer.
come from
Somebody has to have that.
to,
Yeah.
And does it need to be centrally located? We need to find that out from, where is their system? I would guess it's at city, you got city hall.
We can look, it's on,
Main
yeah, their
Street.
city hall is on the main corridor, which is on a highway, so they can do a lot of different things that we can do.
Probably from, if you have 5 speakers, right? 5?
I do
5 sets of speakers.
Right.
So you have it set up, say, from the Guilty Goose up to the car wash?
My happy place, 2 blocks.
From West Second to West Fourth.
And he's projecting 5 sets and they would zigzag down the street.
Well, they wouldn't all be on one side.
No.
Nope, not this one.
slow down, drive slower, look at the signs that we would like.
People's radio stations to do that down Main Street.
Just be like, that's right.
So it's something to think about and we may be back.
Okay, no, I think this is fantastic.
Or if you have questions, you can contact Chris or I.
Sure. Well, thank you very much.
Awesome. They have a great tack shop in Luck, Wisconsin, if anybody's heading that way.
A great what?
Tack shop,
Tack?
like a,
Like country western?
like, horse stuff.
Sure.
I think it's called Luck Sack.
Okay. EDA budget and LMC course.
So that's the League of Minnesota Cities. And I believe at the back of our packet, does everybody have this page? So, last month we finalized the budget and there was discussion surrounding just maybe getting to know public finance a little bit more. And so through staff meetings and speaking with city staff and doing some research, we could very well request Kim, for example, to come help us through our budget. But then I also found this, which might get everybody on the same speed. I know we're all at different levels of finance here, but this is just an option. The League of Minnesota Cities presents Public Finance Essentials course. And I spoke with Miranda, who's on the park board, for example, because if we can get a number of users, we could save money type of thing. So the discussion tonight would be whether we have interest in taking this public finance course. It'd be on your own time. It's a webinar. It's not something we all have to show up to in person or watch here because it's an hour and 20 minutes. But it might save Kim some time explaining this, that, or the other thing if we have some other resources available to us too.
I think it would be beneficial.
I do too.
For
Is this
15
okay,
bucks.
So we can do this at home on
Yep.
our own time.
You can start, stop.
Yep.
Okay.
All that good stuff.
And it's one of those things where, 20 users, $15, that's $300. But if we get to 21, then it's only $210. So if we have 7 people on EDA, including myself, Brian, and then 6 from the park board, including Miranda and Mike. We only need 2 more people.
The rest of the city council,
Well, you're included in. you and
right? But
Sarah.
we don't have, park board.
Well, Chris is already on park board, so then we can invite Bob if he's left out, but why not? Then we need
Bob
one
and Todd.
more. So, Todd, oh yeah, Todd, my list is right here. I thought about Kim, what if she wants to go learn?
The chief can go.
Finance 101. We already talked to him this morning. He said no. I said send Larry, have him learn something.
But it saves us $90.
Yeah, well, that's the
We can
thing.
Sign up and do nothing with it.
We're so close to 20 because I just assumed why not from the EDA's behalf, because she assumed why not from, there was enough interest where we're trying to get to 21 to save $90.
So if we did this, if I wanted to do it and I can't go in there and start until we're all signed up.
I believe so. I haven't got to the next
How
page yet.
soon are we thinking that you're going to be able to get this?
Well, your park board's November,
First.
so maybe
November 2nd would be the soonest we could do anything.
I could
Oh,
send out. If they get us confirmation, we can find the number of users to fill in to get to 21. And then one of us here at City Hall can sign up for it.
Okay.
And then I can send out an email saying, take it at your,
So the possibility is we'd be ready to roll in a month.
yeah.
Are you getting a motion for this? If you're not, I could just send out an email to my park board and gauge interest of that, like tomorrow, and not wait until the meeting. If we wanted to like get it going.
Sure. Didn't even think of that.
I mean, a couple of weeks isn't,
No. I would think if we can get it going in a month,
In a
that's
month,
going to be
that's good, okay.
quick enough.
Okay.
That's a good one. I went through that here recently, the 101. So it's kind of high level, but I'll go through the funds, the numbering, the structure, all that good stuff. So.
And the budget financing that they explain is the same as what we have?
It's a general, public
Pretty much.
administration budget.
Pretty much, yeah.
Didn't you say last month too that Kim was thinking or the city was thinking of changing?
Format.
Oh,
We're going to go
yeah.
to a cloud-based financial system, which will allow better reporting.
actual line item
The line
accounts are
items
the
aren't going to
same.
change.
Yeah, easier to.
No, this is, the numbering and stuff, that's standard.
Yep.
300, 400, 500. Stuff like that.
Anything else on that? New business recognition.
Do we need a motion on that, or you can just move forward with it?
Do you want one, Miranda, for park board? Or should we motion because we're quorum and we're missing 3 and that puts them on the hook too? I'm sure they don't mind.
Well, you're interested, I'm interested. Do you think you would be or you wouldn't need it?
I always learn something.
That's how I felt.
I would be interested.
Every
Chris, we might need that.
finance thing is a little bit different.
You know,
Like I was church secretary for how many years, and this is way different than
That's
what
what I
I
thought
did in
about.
church.
I did
All
a
right,
master's
I will make
degree
a-
with some
I'll-
finance coursework, but I don't know everything public administration.
I'll make a motion that we proceed with
Do we have it in our budget?
The LMC course. Well,
Like
that-
education, right?
well, that was the other thing. If we have X amount of members, and we get to the 10 per person, the EDA would, for example, put in $70 instead of the whole 210.
So what do you want in my motion?
Maybe approve the LMC course from the EDA's behalf, and then we'll move on to, contingent upon the other parties.
Sounds good.
I'll second it.
All right, motion's been made and seconded to pursue the LMC course. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Yes.
So even if like the park board doesn't want to do it, can't we still do it? It's
We
just
can.
gonna cost us $5 more.
It's just $5
Don't
more.
want to do
Okay.
it.
Right, I was like, either way, we're gonna do it.
That was the other thing. They expressed interest in their financials and we expressed interest in our financials. So the next time we went to a staff meeting, we're talking the same language and then there's something like this available and then we need people. So it seems like, why not,
We essentially have the same conversation that you guys are having in a hardboard format.
I would say we do this and then we have Kim in.
Yep, that's what I was
To
gonna
go
say.
through our budget.
Yep. And
All right, we had a
Save our time.
motion and we had
Second.
yes votes. Is there anyone opposed to this? All right, motion's passed. New business recognition now.
Yeah, so, I believe it was 2 months ago that I last talked about this subject, but after the festival got over, I was able to order these plaques. We had hundreds and hundreds of dollars of car show trophies and other plaques that I wanted to make sure were more time sensitive, but I brought them, some of them with. You guys can check them out.
They look like your door.
Years of establishment.
This is just for the new businesses that we know have opened as of now. Obviously, there's places like the coffee shop that haven't opened yet, or the Tranquility Bar. And then another one was Vault 224, the game store, but that closed and is remodeling or rebranding is what Greg said. Yep.
So do they have to be in business so long before we give them a plaque?
That was my stipulation originally, but then the sentiment was, yeah.
23 years ago.
Do you need a new one, Pat?
You should know exactly where it's hanging.
I don't think I did. I think I got a picture in the papers.
My flag sits right by my desk, and I don't think I see it all the time.
Right next to her graduation picture.
Yeah. No.
So that is a good question though. Is it?
My band picture, my senior band.
There you go.
Marching band. Perfect.
I would
A lot
like
of the
something like that.
archive.
Before you leave, I gotta talk to you about something with that. So
Okay.
don't run out. Okay, those are good.
The lesson back in.
Really a lot of them. I was his volunteer service helper, so.
Let's not go there. Okay, we're done with that, right?
Yeah, the only thing left of that is I'm just gonna coordinate with the news record and probably the mayor, go out and.
Sure.
Have we had a
Make it
member of
more.
the EDA at these things when we present these or?
Always usually been either the city administrator or you two guys,
Yeah.
your positions.
Dan had given it to us when we were.
Sometimes it's the mayor, but.
You wanna do it as
Do we have the president of the EDA with us?
Rich volunteer.
Mhm.
I mean, it doesn't matter to me. I just don't want to not include someone that should be.
No.
I'm not the vice president, am I? I am.
He's delegating. He's delegating duties.
More the merrier, because, I'll call and get people scheduled so they're not catching them off
Well,
guard.
you're not gonna do it probably all in one day. Maybe we can
No.
have different people in different pictures. That's fine. As long as I know far enough in advance.
Sure, I'll start working on that one, schedules for people's availability. It'd be nice to get the news record there too, if they're interested, so. That's it for that one.
All right. ARPA committee, new reports.
Yeah, so as a city, we formed a committee to oversee the distribution of our ARPA dollars, which we got our first installment of those. And our next meeting is November 4th. And what we did at the first meeting was just more get debriefed and everybody on the same page with all the stipulations associated with the American Rescue Plan dollars, because you can only spend it on certain things and there's certain rules you have to abide by, and there's a lot of reporting that's needed for regardless of what you do. But the reason I put it on here as a report is because there's a possibility that a percentage of these funds will come to the EDA for our ability to distribute in ways that we wish.
So, oh, sorry.
No.
Can I talk a little bit? So there's categories where you can spend this money. And one of those categories is something like, stimulating the local economy, stuff like that. And we thought, well, that, maybe go through the EDA to figure out where to put that money. And then, of course, we need the reporting back too.
Well, speakers.
The speaker,
That's, yeah, I was gonna ask you.
I'm not
We'd
sure.
actually better.
Yeah. Got a guy at League of Minnesota Cities that I shoot those questions to, and he'll answer them kind of, but then he'll always say, look at the guidance and call your city attorney.
Yeah.
So basically what it comes down to is Kim and I have to report on it somehow and put it in a category with some reasoning. Reality of it is they're probably never gonna question it too much unless we're trying to build a golf clubhouse or whatever they tried to do last time, one of those communities.
Summer home for you.
Or a summer home, yeah.
In publications about what cities have used some of these dollars for, and it's pretty broad, so.
It is, but the categories are not, they don't appear so broad, but if you can pick one, like, I can't remember what the category I thought some of that would fit under. And then kind of,
Well, it's almost like the Rochester sales tax.
Mhm.
I mean, that's.
Just go back to the speakers.
Stringent.
We have them.
After a while, it's like, oh, yeah, I can.
and the guidance changes daily.
See Johnson get his back. So
Because
at least-
people lobby for, we want to be able to spend it on radios for the ambulance and the fire. That's the latest lobby that's going on. You know, right now you can't, but it's probably going to happen where they'll say, yep, I guess that does fit, go ahead. So, yeah, speakers.
Well, in fact, Rich delegated me to be on that and I could not make the first meeting, so
Oh, yeah, sort of a time.
I'll be there at the next
Do
one.
it, I didn't.
Oh.
I didn't say be there or else.
Because what we were really discussing was how do we ensure that, not even from a county perspective, but at least from a geographical township city perspective, how do we ensure that we're in alignment or we're working on towards similar things if there's needs that kind of bleed between those townships and cities, and I think a lot of ours is looking at infrastructure. There's not so much, but there, I think the consensus last night, and most of the fire district representatives are either their president or vice president of their township, is that they really, there's some guidance on how to utilize these dollars, but what do they really use those for in the township? And, so there's comes back a lot of times to safety and services. So, the idea we thought about last night is just at least having a conversation at some point with some representatives from the township to align on what we're looking at, proposing, discussing, thinking about for the course of the next 4 years with these dollars. So they were all very much in favor of that.
The county as well.
Mm-hmm.
They've got the bulk of they've got $9 million, I think. And so you would involve them and maybe bring in the township representatives and just kind of have a little summit, and talk about what are the needs in the area? How can we, because you can combine your dollars. We can transfer it between governmental units.
Doing with their dollars. I mean, that's a lot of,
Yeah, like I say, that some of the things that they've been doing are, I realize it's got to fit in a category, but I think they've been stretching yeah.
Yeah, so I sent out an email to about 8 different administrators and most of what I got back was infrastructure, water and stuff like that, because it's easy reporting. They know it works, but then that's freeing up money for other things. So it's kind of a snowball effect. But anyway, like Dylan said, we had kind of contemplated within the group that maybe we'll just send some money to the EDA and you guys figure out, okay, when these requests come in, can we, go ahead and spend it on that, and then you guys have to report back to us, and then we put it on the reporting for the funds. But that's yet to be seen.
reporting. I see how you're passing the buck.
All of it comes back to myself and Kim. We haven't decided which one of us is going to go to jail if we don't do it right. So, because it's really mine, but she doesn't. Ultimately, it's mine, but.
Okay. Ziva, Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, so this is just another update. I again, at the Ziva meeting, I went and spoke with them about some conversations surrounding potentially formation of a chamber. So long story short, that's something that we'll probably be discussing over X amount of months. I know that they said January was the next time we'll be talking about it, but there is some conversation surrounding Chamber of Commerce. So I'll try my best to work with them regardless of the outcome.
What are the benefits of forming a chamber?
So the benefits of forming a chamber as opposed to a business association?
Opposed to Ziva.
Yep. So there's more ability to gain funds from different sources. So for example, there's a lot of nonprofits and public sector funds that aren't able to go into a business association, which is usually for profit.
We've run up against that, yeah.
So then that would be number one. The number two is we have the ability to capitalize on, I'll call it a market need. There's a chamber in Pine Island, there's a chamber in Cannon Falls, but there's not a chamber in the smaller communities, the Wanamingos, the Goodhues, within 5 miles of us, there's just under 10,000 people. And so, if you think about if there's 2% of out of 100 that has a business, we're 300 businesses. And if you think you got a third of that in memberships, you're getting $10,000, $20,000, depending on if you're paying 200 or 300 for membership dues, which gives a voice to the area. So you get the representation. So you got the ability for more funds. You got the ability to do more for your local and area economy. You have better representation by a unified group. You also have lobbyist reasons. I spoke with them on the topic of, you know, if you want to go up to Capitol Hill, you're more likely to be seen when you represent a bigger group.
It includes all businesses, not just independent businesses.
Yeah, well, that, yeah. So the voice for all, and yeah.
Right now, the independent businesses are only a small select few businesses out of all of our businesses in Zumbrota, so.
It's essentially a bigger version of a business association with capabilities and work too, which is what I expressed.
Now, we had a Chamber of Commerce here a number of years ago. Do you recall that?
I think that was prior to my time.
Okay. And I know there was some, obviously falling out because that's why it disbanded. There was some headbutting and stuff that you know, on the good hand, yep, it's open to everybody. But then when you say we're going to be open Thursday nights until 8 o'clock, everybody's supposed to do that. And that was what pissed some people off, I think. So I don't know. I mean, it's just,
Yeah,
I would like to see it. I think it'd be nice, or something similar, which you've got, which seems to be successful, but
I think it would, yeah, broaden the workload from just that small group of people across a broader spectrum of capable people who all want that same goal in mind.
Yep.
So
I agree.
it creates another pillar for the community
Yeah.
in the area too. So especially if you go for an area chamber over a, you know, city
Oh.
chamber.
Well, I think it'd be a good idea. I just wanted to reminded me.
that maybe
Yeah.
falls
Just have it.
Yeah, I spoke with Lyle Wendroth, who was on the chamber, I want to say. He said the last year it folded, and he was telling me a story about that. I couldn't recall that either to tell you, but he probably has some insight as well.
It's definitely a big leap in a growing pain for the organization, but we're kind of almost at that point.
It would have to be staffed.
It has to be volunteered until staffed is
Correct,
where
yeah.
the work comes in. Yeah.
At least a part-time, full-time person.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, at some point.
I do.
Yeah. Well,
Get to
I
that
think so.
size.
so the city of, I spoke with a couple of executive directors for Chamber of Commerce in anticipation with my meeting with Ziba, and the city of Spring Grove sent me their templates of what they just started one in 2019. So they're a population of 1,300, and they raised 55,000 with grants and business donations, and their EDA gave them $5,000 for, you know, startup costs. And then they spent the entirety of that 55,000. 35 of it was for staffing, you know, which is going to be a big chunk. But it's just one of those things where chambers of commerce, just like a tourism center, just like an EDA office, thrive better when there's someone doing it full time. Otherwise, it's work that you can never work on. You're not gonna, you know, you're gonna
Already
survive.
have plenty of work.
But you do better when you staff it. But like we were saying, it's usually when you do a startup, it's gonna be a volunteer hours until money comes in, which is the biggest hurdle in my mind.
Yeah, and it's needed year after year after year. It's not just a one-time shot.
Yep.
At 55,000.
Yep.
So I guess my next question would be, who is making the decision if we're moving towards a chamber?
Whoever wants to be on the chamber business.
It would be independent of us or the city.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's, you know, it's for the business community as a whole, representative of the business. And it's not an extension of government, but it is something that works with government.
That could take on tourism as well.
Yeah. I mean, you think about all the things that bring people to businesses and to the community is what chambers are for.
Okay, well, I'm sure you'll keep us informed.
Yeah.
Covered Bridge Festival.
Yeah, this one, it seems like the festival was forever ago, but it was just last month, so I put it on here. Just to recap, I sent out surveys and there was a poll sent out and it showed real good reviews. So the festival went well is my report essentially. We have a debriefing meeting scheduled next week, I believe. Just to debrief a bit and catch our breath. We were meeting quite a bit there up until September 18th and then we haven't met since. So that's an update on that. And this one's just on the same thought, but I thought I just added in there. So there were certain, back to the Nilsson's donated water, for example. Well, Nick Nilsson was nice enough to make a box, made it pretty, put a sign, said accepting donations for this water, because we didn't have the capabilities to staff it, handing out water. So we were just going to give it out for free. But he brought a donation box and people put in $125. And I thought, I saw members of the choir group, I don't know what you'd call them, choir, I guess. I wasn't in choir. They were trying to sell funnel cakes at the Guilty Goose at a certain time of night. And I thought that's not a good use of kids. So I gave them the $125 to help their efforts. They need $800 a kid to go to Nashville. So, and I don't know how many they want, but they could use some help too. So I don't know what to do there, but thought I'd report that I gave them $125 because I didn't know what to do with the water money. Could have put it back in the festival budget for next year, but
I'm sure they greatly appreciate it because they have been working their tail off during
yeah,
the
they have
fundraise.
been.
They hosted our movie night too.
Yep.
On the bridge.
And they,
That was the night before.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
I don't remember. It's a blur.
it was the same, the movie night was at 6 then.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know either.
And they also, they were selling concessions out of the Trailhead Pavilion too. So they're working hard at it. But that's just an update.
Thank you. Anything else? Anyone? Reports?
One question. So we'll circle back around to kind of this general downtown business idea of a sound system. My question was really is the sales tax dollars from our Rochester sales tax dollars. So we had so much set aside for businesses to do whatever improvements. And I know at least 2 or 3 of those were returned based on the 10-year, whatever, to not. So, you know, truly, if we're looking at this as a kind of a downtown draw or a draw, would that be a wise use of, I think that those loans were up to $10,000 forgivable. I'm like, I don't know that we would look at it as a loan, but it would be, but I think that there's some returned dollars from those efforts. At least 2 businesses I know returned those dollars. That's maybe something. It's like, right, it's under our. And I know some of that was set aside for. Look to your right.
What's it back?
But I know, no. Yeah. Much of that money was set aside for the business park or this thing. But I think, you know, at least the return, there was, I know a few that didn't, there were still some dollars left over from that original allotment amount. And I know that there were at least 2 that were returned. So there's at least $20,000.
That would have been in the revolving loan account, right? 404?
Maybe. I think so.
Yeah.
Mhm. So I think the rest of that sales tax dollars was for the industrial park.
Yep. That was the amount that was allotted to, from that to the, yep.
Yep. So it would be, yeah.
We'll probably know the exact number.
I know.
So just a thought discussion before next month's meeting.
Good idea.
You're just getting the allocation.
Right, you're not seeing the ins and outs and what was returned.
Money market, but I think the total is.
Of the specific.
Anyway,
So it was just kind of a discussion to set the stage maybe for next month's EDA meeting.
well, maybe we can get clarification or further explanation as far as the Rochester sales dollars, what's been used, what's left, what was returned, what's available, what's in our balance, if it's more than 5508.
Can we use it for that specific project, I guess would be the.
Yeah, because I think with those dollars, we chose what the rules were. So the
Yeah.
rules
Oh, okay.
were, you know,
That was
to,
before.
for
my time.
like business I don't want to say beautification, but whatever businesses,
Storefront improvement.
businesses need.
Yeah.
Mhm. Right, and so that kind of is that next layer of storefront.
The fronts either, wasn't it?
No, it was
yeah.
whatever they
Because I
need to
think
utilize
we-
it for.
Somebody had HVAC and
Mhm.
roofs.
Yep.
Windows.
Mhm.
Siding? No.
Those rows.
Oh, I know.
So, that's just fantasy for maybe future discussions. And then we can really know what's in.
Maybe put that on next month's deliberative weekend.
So then that brings me back to my question, like, when are you guys hoping for a decision? Like, I mean, we can't just keep tabling it and putting it off. Like, they have to know that somehow they're gonna get the money, or either it's gonna come from us, or they're gonna have to keep raising it, or we're gonna give them X amount of dollars, or.
But even if they got the money and if they said we were gonna pay for the whole cost, you said that their production delays are until next year for sure.
Right, but we want to get on that list now before it just keeps getting longer
That's
and
true.
longer.
That's true.
So should we clarify Rochester sales tax and anything else by next month's meeting and then it's
Make a decision?
knowledge, we make a decision?
And also whether or not any of the rescue plan funds might be able to be used for that as well.
The other argument to what his point earlier is just because it is now, doesn't mean it is in 3 months, because it changes, so that's the weird deal there. We have 4 years to spend that.
Mhm.
So let's just do what we want anyway and.
Yeah.
'Cause it'll
Ask
be
for
diff-
forgiveness.
It'll be, yeah, right.
We're riding with it.
I'm sorry, I didn't know.
I think
I
it
was
was
supposed to ask permission.
We're being recorded, Kim, don't listen.
Oh, yeah.
She was just at Alcatraz, so she knows what it's like.
Oh, I keep forgetting about that. I'm gonna start whispering to you. Okay.
If I can interject, I don't know, Brian, if you guys shared, but the downtown business group now has a defibrillator device that I believe is going to be at Bridget's vestibule area. So just if you guys can spread the word, people you know, family, friends, that it's there for emergencies.
Is that door is always open? There you go.
I am not telling you, you should have seen me. I was like, and then I was like, oh, I know that guy, I'm so sorry.
Procured,
I was.
donated.
But
Nice.
I believe so. Out into the intersection. Across by the carnival. And I was like, are you not seeing this kid right here?
That's dangerous down there.
All right,
Are we done?
thank you. Meeting adjourned, everyone.
Thank you.
Why won't mine shut off?
For a few minutes.